Hello, BookTube. Before I talk about my Paltry poetry collection, there's two things I want to address. One is I want to make discussion videos, but I'm not entirely sure how I want to do it. I know I don't want to film review videos. I want to talk about the book without arguing why you should either buy a book or not buy a book, or however you acquire books. I filmed a discussion video of King Solomon's Mines where I held it up and just talked about it for about 12 minutes. And I want to go back and rewatch it and see what I think of it and whether that's a format I want to continue going forward, or if I want a more structured sort of video essay style. So if I have a discussion video of King Solomon's Mines come up in the next few days, then that's what I went with, and if not, then I'm still thinking about it. Another issue that came up while trying to film this video is I need to rethink how and from what angles I film. I was originally, the way I had filmed it, the tablet fell over twice on two different filming attempts. So I need to really rethink that. So I'll be playing around with that in the next few days too. So while I'm thinking of these things over, I'm going to start on a library tour. I'll begin with my Paltry poetry collection and move on to my writing and art books. At the moment, I'm not happy with where I have my TBR and my new books. Here's my TBR, and then my new books are here. I don't like where they are. I think they would probably be better served on the two shelves on my desk, while the writing books and the art books could go to a shelf that my brother's supposed to be putting in over my desk. Although for the moment I'll be putting it over the shelf my brother put in that's over my bed, and test the strength of that shelf out while I'm at it. So with that said, let us begin with my library tour with my Paltry poetry collection. I'll be right back as my books are on my bed and sorry about that. So the first, so my poetry collection is 6 books. It used to be slightly larger. I don't think I ever had more than maybe 15 books of poetry all told. And I've largely gotten rid of them over the years. So the oldest book of poetry in my collection that remains is Sappho. I picked this up in high school, and I've enjoyed it when I've read it ever since. Another a poet I discovered in high school, although it took me in college to get this collection, is Wisława Zaborska. This is View with a Grain of Sand, selected poems. Wisława Zaborska was a Polish poet who won the 1996 Nobel Prize in Literature, and I enjoyed this book greatly. Another book, the Zaborska, I picked up at Book People in Austin. Another one I picked up in Austin, maybe one of the first books I picked up from Book People, is Word of Mouth, an anthology of gay American poetry edited by Timothy Liu. This book introduced me to several gay American poets whose collections I've picked up over the years and subsequently unhauled. I think I had a collection of James Broughton's work. I now had a collection of Robert Duncan. His selected poems were really, really good. And it's a big selected edition of Allen Ginsberg's, a collected edition of Frank O'Hara's, and James Merrill's. I want to say I had David Trinidad's Plasticville, and I've always wanted the collection that had 18 to 24 in it. I love that poem. I also had a collection or two of Mark Doty's poetry and Mark Wonderlake. And then I had Justin Chen's Fight Hard. So it's been quite a while since I've read Word of Mouth, and I really should come back to it at some point. So, one of the poets I forgot to mention from Word of Mouth that I picked up is Edward Field. I have his selected poems, Counting Myself Lucky. I also used to have his collections, Variety Photoplays and Stars in My Eyes, and I enjoyed both of them. I actually wrote an essay on his poetry my last year in college, which I enjoyed it immensely, writing it. So his poetry is mostly sort of pop culture and everyday life in a very sort of vernacular voice. Kind of enjoy him. I haven't read him in years, so I need to really read that again. I think I mentioned I had the collected poetry of James Merrill. I also have the Changing Light of Sendover, which I got both this and Counting Myself Lucky. I think I picked up used from Barnes & Noble's used bookstore online presence. Or the used bookstore that Barnes & Noble has online. I've read this once in college, and I liked it, but I'm not entirely sure why I quite kept it. And finally, and there's no need to figure out why I have this one, the Go-Go Boys Sonnets by Edmund Miller. So this is a collection of sonnets that extol the various men of the New York club scene. And if the young men are, their native language is not English, there's a translation in their native language of the poem. And some of the poems I remember are quite good. It's been a while since I've read this book, and I again should really look into reading it, and if not, then probably should think about unhauling it. So that was my poetry collection. Quite paltry, and probably going to be even more reduced as I run out of space to put my books. So thank you, BookTube.